Are you ready for this? Prepare to have a lot of fun learning about rounding numbers using representations. So representations means pictures or graphs or number lines like the quick check. So when you get done, you should be able to answer this quick check. Don't worry, you won't have to go back to the beginning. I put this question at the end also. But we're learning about rounding numbers. We're learning about changing numbers into numbers that are easy to work with, and they're not exact. They're not exactly like the number that it started with, but it's something that you do when you don't need an exact answer. Okay, so anyway, first thing you need to learn about are benchmark numbers. Okay, benchmark numbers. So let's think of the number 2,642. So if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, that would be the 4. The 4 is in the tens place. If I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I need to find the benchmark numbers for the tens place. In this case, the 4 represents 40, and so I really have 42. So that's in between 40 and 50. And then halfway between 40 and 50 is 45. So when I end up rounding 2,642, I know that 42 is in between 40 and 45, which means it's going to be closer to 40 than 50, which we're not worrying about that yet. I'm just worried about finding the benchmark numbers. So if I'm rounding to the nearest 10 on that number, it's 40, 50, and 45. So if I'm dealing with the hundreds, that's the 6, which is worth 600. So the smallest benchmark number is 600. I've got 642 in my number. So that's between 600 and 700. And in between 600 and 700 is 650. Those are the benchmark numbers we're using. Okay. Now, if I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000, the number in the thousands place is the 2. So the benchmark numbers that I'm going to be talking about are 2,000 and 3,000, and halfway between 2,000 and 3,000 is 2,500. Okay? You're going to understand why I need to know those benchmark numbers in just a little bit. Okay, so let's look at this first kind of problem. This kind of problem is asking you to actually find the benchmark values and the halfway point. So let's look at it. Thomas needs to round 1,567 to the nearest 10. So first thing you need to do is find the number that is in the tens place. I like to draw an arrow to it. It's the 6. 6 is in the tens place. Okay, and the 6 in the tens place represents 60. So that's the first benchmark number. So 67 is in between 60 and 70. And the halfway point would be 65. So I'll write the answers in the correct spots. The benchmark value 1 is 60, benchmark value 2 is 70, and the halfway point 65. All right, move on. So we're going to learn how to use a place value chart to do rounding. So let's take a look at this problem. We are going to be rounding this number to the nearest 10. First off, this number is 9,979. I'm going to write that down underneath. 9,979. And we're supposed to be rounding the nearest 10. So when I look at the tens column, that's 70. I almost can make another 10 by looking at the ones, because I only need one more 10. That would make 80. So this is going to round to 80. I don't really like using these place value charts, So what I do is I just find the tens place, which is the 7, and I know that my benchmark numbers are 70 and 80, and the midpoint 75, and 79 is past the midpoint, past the halfway point. So that means it's closer to 80 than it is to 70. So since it's closer to 80, the rounded number would be 9,980. When you round a number to a certain place, you will write digits for every larger place value, and every smaller place value is a 0. So when I'm rounding to the nearest tens, my ones place is 0, but everything else has a digit. So 9,980 is what 9,979 rounds to. Okay. Let's move on. Number lines. Look at this number line. You have to be able to round using a number line. Now, looking, it says, I think it's funny, it says, look at the number line. Well, looking at this number line will do you no good. It doesn't help. It's just a problem with the 10-mark question. So it would help if it showed the benchmark numbers that we're talking about. So, question was, what's the value of 6,818 rounded to the nearest hundred? So the hundreds place is the 8. So that means our benchmark number would be 6,800 and 6,900. If those numbers were on the number line, like this, if this was 6,800 and 6,900, then I would look and see, where does 6,818 go? So the midpoint would be 6,850. 6,818 would be somewhere like right here. So is it closer to 6,800 or 6,900? It's closer to 6,800. So the answer is 6,800. Okay, 6,818 is somewhere like right here. The closest hundred is 6,800. Okay. Next, looking at the number chart. This one we can use. So we can use the number chart to figure it out. We're rounding 128 to the nearest 10, and the tens place is the 2. We're rounding Well, we're going to find the benchmark numbers. In this case, rounding nearest 10, 28 is between 20 and 30. So our benchmark numbers are 120 and 130. 120 is right here. 130 is right here. The midway point is 125. So 128 is past the midway point. That means it is closer to 130. So it's 130. 130 is the answer. 128 rounded to the nearest 10 is 130. Okay. Now, you're about ready for the quick check. Before you do the quick check, I'm just realizing, let's go back up here to the top. Okay. I was talking about benchmark numbers. Okay, so when we were rounding to the nearest 10, the benchmark numbers, I said that 42 is between 40 and 50, so it's really 2,640 because 2,642 is between 2,640 and 2,650. Okay, and the midway point is 2,645. So this number, 2,642, is in between these, so it means it's closer to 2,640. Okay, so the benchmark numbers in the hundreds place, the hundreds is the 600s, so it's going to be between 600 and 700 like I wrote. So the actual benchmark number is 2,600 because we're talking about this number, and 2,700, and the midpoint is 2,650. Okay, the thousands, I had those already right. The thousands is 2,000 and 3,000 with 2,500 in the middle. Okay, if you need me to clear that up, ask me when you get to the next station. Okay, so that means we are ready for our quick check problem, which is right here. You can screenshot that, put it in Notability, and answer it. Go for it.